This is the Dreamers Podcast, where dreamers share their stories to inspire you. Now, join host Joe Pardo as he interviews a dreamer who's living their dreams.
Welcome to the Dreamers Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pardo, and today I'm interviewing Michael Stoever Sr., who is living his dream through running a sports facility. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you, Joe. Great to be here.
It's great to be here right in the sports facility. Let's get started by giving some background about yourself.
I was born and raised in Philadelphia. Went through schooling over there until middle school. Then we moved to New Jersey. Spent from my middle school years all the way to the present living in South Jersey. After high school, went into the U.S. Navy. Spent 6 years in the Navy. Got out of the service. Found a job, if you will. Was going to college part-time at night. Not really knowing what direction in life I wanted to go or where life was going to take me. And kind of stumbled upon this job that I'm in now. Kind of dumb luck, really, to be honest with you. And I've been in this business for over 20 years now.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Honestly, people that know me know some of my best stories, and I've been one to spin a tale or two. Usually start with this catchphrase, when I was in the Navy, and then it goes from there. So I really, really thoroughly enjoyed my time in the service, and it was really an honor to wear the uniform, honestly.
Well, if you'd like to, you can give a story.
Some of it may not be, right for public consumption at this point, but maybe on the next show.
Well, what would you say inspires you?
Well, I've always been the type of person. I'm an energetic person. I enjoy getting up in the morning. I enjoy just doing something. It doesn't matter what it happens to be. It could be the smallest thing in life to me that will inspire me. Honestly and genuinely would say probably the biggest thing that inspires me is just people. To me, a good day to me is a day that I made a friend, a good friend or a new friend. That inspires me. I've always been a people person. I'm driven by people. It never ceases to amaze me that there's so many different people out there that have so many different opinions and likes and dislikes and, whatever on a vast topic, of vast, topics. But that's always been me. I've always enjoyed people. I met a friend today. I made a new friend today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. A new tenant across from our building in a little strip center, and I happened to get some of their mail delivered to our building, and I walked over and I introduced myself, and I went up spending about 25 minutes over there talking to this guy. He's an insurance broker, and, I made a new friend today, and it was good. I mean, he's a good guy, and like I said, it's just something as simple as that.
Well, let's first talk about going into the Navy. How did that come about?
Well, Joe, I was not what you would consider a very scholastic oriented person as a young person. I didn't take my high school career very seriously. I didn't work very hard at grades, and I didn't work very hard trying to impress teachers enough to give me a good grade. On some fronts, it could be looked at as, some teachers just thought I was lazy. I just was never really, getting back to that word, I was never really inspired enough, I don't think, through high school to really go out and go over and above and try to achieve. So during my high school years, I was really an underachiever. I had 185 kids or so in my graduating class. I think I was ranked 181 out of 185 kids. So that'll go to where I'm talking about, the depths that the underachieving actually sank to. I have to look back, and I always remember a conversation that I had with my mom when I was in 10th grade. I brought home my report card. It was not very good. I think the highest grade was an A, which was in gym. And then from gym, it sank down to like a C in English, and then just went from there. So I brought home a standard, Mike Stoever report card, which was pretty bad. And my mom pulled me aside and she said, "Is this the best you can do? Is this the best you can do?" And I said, "Yes, that's the best I can do." And she said, "If this is the best you can do, then I'm not going to worry about it, because I only want you to do the best you can do. But and I know that you're smarter than this, and you could do better work than this if you really wanted to. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to punish you. I'm not going to make you do more chores. I just want you to do the best that you can do. And I took that to heart, and I floundered my way through high school the rest of the way. Because it was almost like, my mom gave me a free pass. But I'll never forget the words that she said were, this report card makes you look like you're not smart, but I know in my heart that you're smart. And that's what I'm going to bank on, because I know you're smart. And I think you know you're smart. So you do what you have to do in school. I know that you can do much, much better than what you're doing now. And I always remembered that. It struck me in a sense. So to make a short story long, to how I got myself to go into the service, I graduated high school. I had enrolled at Glassboro State College, which is now Rowan University in Glassboro, New Jersey. I was there maybe a weekend, honestly. And I looked around, and I knew that I was completely out of my element. I mean, I didn't belong there. And I had a friend of mine, good friend of mine, who we had been childhood friends, and I'm still friends with him to this day. I came home from college for the weekend, and I went to my buddy's house, and he had all this stuff on his desk about the U.S. Navy. And I looked at it, and I said, what's this all about? And he said, I'm going to enlist in the Navy. I said, really? And he said, yeah. He goes, it's pretty good. He goes, I'm going to go to boot camp, and then I'm going to go to school, and then they're going to train me, and then I'm going to get a job in the Navy, and I don't want to go to college, and this is an opportunity for me to not only get some education, but also get paid for the education. He said, so that's what I'm going to do. And I said, wow, I'll go tomorrow if my mom will sign the papers, because at the time I was still only 17. So I went home and I said to my mom, I want to join the Navy. And she goes, you're not joining the Navy. She goes, you're going to college. And I told her, I said, I don't belong there. I don't feel like I belong at a university. That's not what I'm cut out to be. I said, listen, I'm only 17 and I want to enlist, but I'm not 18. You have to sign the papers for me. And my parents were divorced, and I said, listen, if you don't sign, I'm going to call Dad, and I'm going to ask him to sign. She reluctantly signed the papers for me to go in, and I went up, going into the service. Quite frankly, it was probably the single best decision I've made from a career standpoint. It's probably my single best decision I've ever made.
Why would you say that?
Well, at that point, once you go into the military, there's no place for Mike Stoever from the 1975 to 1979 circa high school. There's no place for that guy. Either you're going to conform and you're going to achieve what they want you to achieve, or you're going to be put out. And the last thing that I wanted as an individual, and I guess this has kind of carried me through my life, is I never wanted to go back to my hometown and tell all the kids that I failed. I didn't want to tell my classmates or my neighbors or my family and my friends that I got kicked out of the service. So it was almost a situation where, I was fearful of becoming a failure in the military, and that kind of turned me in a sense where I started to look at myself a little bit differently. I started to think of myself differently. I started to think, you know what? Maybe I am smarter than I really gave myself credit for. Maybe there is more that I can do than just be, some dum-dum that graduated, in the bottom 1% of my class. And the fear of failure drove me to become a better person, a better sailor in the United States Navy. And then it carried me on into my adult life. I mean, I went through boot camp. I went to a Class A school in Millington, Tennessee, and graduated second in my class out of maybe 50 sailors, which isn't great. But, I mean, for me at that point, I was at the top looking down rather than at the bottom looking up. And that inspired me to work harder. I'm like, wow, I did really well. I mean, and I didn't have to take a gym class to get an A. I did well for myself, and it was really a life-changing experience for me.
So let's fast forward to how you got involved with owning your own sports facility.
That is that's something that was never my intention. I got out of the Navy, and I took a job working for a consulting engineering firm and started out as an entry-level position and kind of worked my way up. Went through certification courses in engineering. Then I decided that I wanted to put myself back into school. And I went to Burlington County College, in Pemberton, New Jersey. Wound up going to school at night, working full-time during the day. And I got an associate's degree in business administration. And it was, again, one of those things where I said to myself, wow, I went to Glassboro State College as a 17-year-old, and I knew that I didn't, really belong there. And then as a 22 or 23-year-old, I went back to a community school, and I'm saying to myself, I should have done this 5 years ago. But in any event, I was working part-time, and I met a lovely young lady who I happened to marry. And my job took me to the point where I started to make a little bit of money in life. I was like, wow, I'm doing pretty good here. Young guy, 28, 29 years old, and making a little bit of money. My wife and I had our son. Our first son was born, and we were living in a condo at the time, and it was just like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath little condo, and we wanted to get a single family home. And we found ourselves down here in Washington Township, New Jersey, and we bought a single family home. We had decided when our son was born that we wanted to raise our child. We wanted to be the primary caregivers. We wanted to be the ones that saw him walk and talk and throw a baseball. We wanted to be the first ones to see all those things. I didn't want to find out at kindercare that my son, your son walked today, or your son ate SpaghettiOs by himself today. We wanted to be there for him. So we moved down here to Washington Township, and the gentleman who owned this facility prior to me was a friend of ours. My wife and I had known for a number of years. He found out that I moved down here and offered me a part-time job, working in, 1 or 2 nights a week. We were roller skating at that time, and he said, listen, I could use a part-time manager to help me out. Would you be interested in coming in and giving me some part-time help? At the time, getting back to, my wife and I working and not working, I went home and I said to my wife, who was working a part-time job at night, and it was killing her. And I said, listen, I can work part-time at the skating rink at night, a couple nights a week, rather than you leaving the house at night when I come home from work, and then coming home at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then when I leave at 6 a.m., you have to be up because we have a baby to take care of. Why don't you allow me to do that? And then you could stay home. And, it's only going to be a couple nights a week. So, we agreed that that's the path that we wanted to take. Well, the 1 or 2 nights a week turned into 3 nights a week, turned into 4 nights a week, turned into, oh my God, I'm there 7 nights a week. And after a year and a half, the guy who owned the business asked me if I would like to come in and work for him full time. And I said, dude, what are you talking about? I got a career, man. I got a wife. I got a house. I'm not working at a skating rink. I said, it's great part-time money, but, I would never think about, it as a career for me. And I said, listen, with all due respect, I said, this is your business, and I'm not looking down my nose at you because you're doing a great thing, but this wasn't what I had envisioned for myself. Ironically, Joe, my wife and I both grew up as roller skaters as kids. We both grew up skating to the point where my wife grew up, her mother was a competitive figure skater, roller, not ice, roller. And her mom was born and raised in roller skating centers. My wife roller skated as a kid. I've always roller skated. So ironically, to be offered a job at a skating center was kind of like, really? Is this what you want to do? So my wife and I talked about it, and the gentleman who owned the business before me, made me a great offer to come in and work his business full time. So at that point, I accepted the job. We were just running roller skating sessions and birthday parties, and I just happened to be looking through a roller skating association trade magazine, which every business I'm sure has their own trade magazine. And I was leafing through this thing one day, just trying to figure out what the business was all about. And I saw there was rinks throughout the country that were running roller hockey programs to supplement their income and fill in dead times in their schedules. And I said to the guy who owned the building at the time, I said, we should try to do this. And he goes, I don't know anything about running hockey. He goes, what do you know about running hockey? I said, I don't know anything about running hockey. I said, but I grew up playing sports my whole life. I played, competitive sports, and I've always loved sports. And I said, I don't know anything about it, to be honest with you. I said, but I'm going to learn, and I think it's something that we can do. So that was right around 1995. I started here part-time in late 93, early 94, came in full-time 95. I started doing roller hockey shortly thereafter, and within 2.5 years, we had our roller hockey end of the roller skating business was such that I was finding programs in the roller skating business that weren't making money and cutting them out to put roller hockey in place. And before you knew it, we ran out of things to cut, but we still needed more time. So the owner of the building said to me, listen, why don't we put an addition on the building and we'll put up a roller hockey center. We started talking about this in 1997, 1998, and 1999 we went under construction. At that point, the owner made me his business partner, and I became a partner in the business. 2004, 2005, the owner approached me about leasing the building from him, and I did. And then in 2011, which was 3 years ago today, or almost to the day, 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to purchase the building from him, and I bought the building. It's never, ever, honest to God, it's never really been a chore or a job or something that I woke up in the morning and said, ugh, I got to get back over there. It was never that way for me. I mean, how could it be? I mean, I'm running, our wood floor that we roller skated on for years and years and years. We convert it. We do indoor basketball. We do volleyball. We do some soccer on the wood floor. We have the full-blown roller hockey center with dasher boards and glass, and it's like a carnival. It's like working in a carnival for me. It's never been a chore. So that's how I became where I'm at today. And honestly, Joe, I wouldn't look back. From that perspective of my life, there's really no regret. I mean, some people have regret. I mean, I'm 52, going to be 53 years old, and people at my stage of life, like you said to me, the later stages of my life, have regret. I know they have regret. I have friends that have regrets. I have certain regrets in life about certain things that I may or may not have done. But choosing this as my profession has never been one. Never been one.
Wow, that's quite a mouthful. But thank you for all that. So how was your dream received by family members? Like you told them, hey, I'm going to start working here. And then, I mean, you kind of mentioned that before, but let's jump towards, okay, I'm going to start doing this full time as my own business. What was the response from your family?
Well, let's talk about the two most influential women in my life. I never want to lose sight of that to me. My wife, what are you, nuts? What are you, out of your mind? Why would you want to do that? Tell Gary no. Gary was the guy who owned the building. Tell him no. Tell him you just want to work for him. He's got all the responsibility. My mom, I would do it. I told you could do this. So it was a split. It was a 50-50 split. And unfortunately, I had to make the final decision, or fortunately. My wife initially was not, I would say, 100% on board. My kids, at this point, you're talking, the mid-2000s. Our son, Michael, at that point, you figure that was, 8-9 years ago. He was probably 11 or 12 years old. Our daughter, Brooke, was at that point 8, maybe 9 years old. And they had both been basically born and raised in the building. So they embraced it. The kids embraced it. They're like, wow, yeah, this is great. We're gonna own the building. This was their playground that they grew up in. My wife, not so much, because she saw the big picture. The big picture is, you have a big building there. You have responsibilities. You have big bills. It's big headaches. But, ultimately, we collectively, my son, my daughter, and myself, we convinced my wife that this was going to be the best thing for the family. And so it's been good.
So what steps specifically did you take to get started? You mentioned starting with flipping through a trade magazine. You found the article. Was it an article or advertisement?
It was an article about roller hockey.
And what steps did you take to get started with that?
Well, it's kind of weird because at that point we had essentially just the one surface that we were skating on, which was a maple wood floor. And there was a lot of kids at that point that I saw skating that were skating on inline skates. And the inline skate at that point was something that was newer to the market. A lot of the kids had essentially what looked like an ice hockey skate with an inline frame underneath it. And I approached a lot of these kids and said, "Yo, do you guys play roller hockey?" "Yeah, we play hockey." "Where do you play?" "We play at the park." "Would you play inside here?" "Yeah, we would love to play inside, but the guy who owns the building told us before that he doesn't want to ruin his floor." And I said, "Let me take care of the guy who owns the building." I said, "If I started a program here, would you guys be interested in playing in my program?" And they said, "Yeah." And so I said to myself, that's really the area that you need to start in, is with the kids. You got to get the kids involved. Those are the guys that are going to carry your program through their generation, and then hopefully you get another little generation. But that doesn't end there, because there's a lot of adults. I was an adult at that time. I still roller skated. And I never thought of putting inlines and a hockey stick in the same equation. But then I said to myself, wow, it's really awesome. I mean, it's cheaper than ice hockey, and you can still basically play the same sport. And I'd always played street hockey as a kid. I loved it. I thought it was the best. Unfortunately, my folks couldn't afford to put me into an ice hockey program, so I did what I had to do. But so I went to the local parks where these kids were playing roller hockey, and I ran into some adults, men, that were out there skating around, shooting hockey balls. And I walked over and I said, "You guys play here all the time?" And they said, "Oh, yeah, on Sundays we got a big group that comes down here. We split up teams and we play." I said, "What do you do when it rains?" They said, "We don't play." And I said, "If there was an indoor facility locally, would you consider playing inside?" And they said, "Yeah, but nobody around here is offering anything." And I said, "Well, if I offered an indoor roller hockey program, would you start playing?" And they said, "Yeah, sure. We would consider it." So in a matter of a month and a half of just doing what we're doing right now, just talking to people, I found out that if I offered an indoor program, I can get kids to come inside and play. And if I offered an indoor program, I could potentially get adults to play. And that was, like I said, in the mid 90s, 95-ish, maybe early 96. Started out with probably 25 or 30 kids playing in our program, and that blossomed to the height of our popularity. We at one point had maybe 350 kids playing in our program. The adult program, I started out with 5 or 6 teams playing pretty bad hockey, but that blew up to where we're at today, where we customarily would run anywhere from 50 to 65 teams in our adult program, depending on the time of year. And it was all realistically spawned on the fact that I just went out and kind of pounded the pavement, if you will, a little bit. And went down to the park and looked around and talked to some people and put my name out there and told them where I was at. And that was it.
Yeah, I mean, there's constantly teams, a lot of teams here. I play here personally, so it's pretty crowded, especially on Sundays. What roadblocks have you hit along the way?
Not too many, to be perfectly honest with you. Where we're located down here in southern New Jersey, there was a few roller rinks, like we were at the time, that were doing roller hockey inside the rinks. And we kind of fed off of each other. We formed a little alliance, if you will. We had this little Delaware Valley Roller Hockey League, and we put together some youth travel teams, and the other rinks put together youth travel teams. And I'm talking travel within a 10-mile radius of the facility. So it wasn't like we were driving to Pittsburgh and back. We were driving from Washington Township to Deptford, or from Washington Township to Berlin, or something like that, which are all within a 10-mile radius of the facility. So initially there really wasn't any roadblocks. When we got to the point where we were going to put up the dedicated roller hockey rink, unbeknownst to us at the time, the mecca of roller hockey, not only in New Jersey but in the country, was located in Berlin, New Jersey, 25 minutes from where we're sitting right now. A gentleman was running arguably the best roller hockey program in the country. And at that point, when he found out that we were putting up this facility, there was a little resistance on his end. I don't want to say resistance is probably a wrong word. Acceptance is a better word on his end. And he went so far as to call us on the phone and say, what do you think you're doing down there? Do you know I have a dedicated roller hockey rink right here in Berlin? Why would you do something like that? And my explanation to him was, listen, I'm not trying to hurt you personally or professionally. I'm just trying to put up, or we're just trying to put up at that time, because I didn't own the building, but we're just trying to put up a facility that will best serve our customer base. That's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to hurt you or hurt anybody in what we're doing. We're just trying to service our customer the best way that we can. And there was a lot of underlying stuff going on in the background. Don't go down there to play in his place. He doesn't know what he's doing. You know, he's a new guy. I've been doing this for a long time. Roller hockey really burst onto the national scene sometime in the early 90s, 91, 92, 93. So he may have had 5 or 6 year leg up on us, which at that time seemed like a lot. You know, in retrospect, you think about 5 or 6 years, like I've watched 5 or 6 years just blow by me. Yeah, we hit some stumbling blocks and some roadblocks along the way, particularly, you know, trying to build our youth program bigger, because now I wasn't building my youth program around roller skating programs. It was the program. I mean, I had to fill that building. I needed to fill that building. There was requirements on my end from my boss to get the building filled. And particularly with the kids, it was tough. But, you know, through just honestly, Joe, just through, you know, dedication to the cause, if you will, dedication to the sport, dedication to my customer base. Again, that fear of failure, that fear of walking to my boss and say, dude, I can't do it. I'm sorry, you put this $2 million building up for me and I can't fill it. I don't know what to do. And that fear drove me, ate at me to fill that building the best I could, run the best program I could, offer my customer base the best program for the lowest amount of money that I possibly could, and get as many fannies in the seats as we could. And that's what drives me to this day.
That's pretty crazy, the level of commitment that going to a $2 million building and not even, I mean, realistically knowing that you're going to be able to make it all happen. I mean, you at that point you had programs here, so you had some, you had kids, you were gaining ground, but that's, I mean, once you make that commitment, that's a pretty scary thing to have to deal with. Mm-hmm. And then to perpetuate it. Mm-hmm. And year over year continuously have people coming into the program. I mean, now all these years later, now that you're established, it must be a bit easier because you have the word of mouth and you have that longevity behind you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, initially, like you said, I mean, even though we did carry a program with us, if you will, into the new facility, it wasn't at capacity. The building at that point was probably 50% at capacity. To get that to 100% capacity did take a lot of dedication, a lot of work. It was rewarding knowing that, wow, man, we had 100 kids playing in our program when we started last year, and we got 200 kids in our program, and that is rewarding. Not so much from my perspective, from a monetary standpoint, because I tell my friends, I tell my family, I'll tell anybody, the business and the money has never really drove me. I'm not driven by making the money. I'm not driven by, the business. Do I love it? Yeah, I love the business. I was always driven by the people. I told you earlier, one of my things, what inspires me, I genuinely enjoy meeting people, and I genuinely enjoy watching people get enjoyment out of coming in my building. You were talking about this earlier before we were on air. That fulfills me, is to watch some kid come into this program and get enjoyment out of it. And it's been rewarding in that respect. I got a lot. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how many great people I've met in this business, and people that I not only consider my customer but friends that I will know forever. And it's been good.
So is there any parts of your dream that haven't quite worked out yet?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, have I written these things down and kind of crossed them off as I've gone along? No. Should I have? Probably. But I'm sure if I really thought about it long and hard, there's aspects of the business that, you know, I haven't really struck gold with yet, if you can use that term. So the conversion in the wood floor to basketball and volleyball and some indoor soccer on the wood surface has been good for us. Unfortunately, for me personally, that's not really my forte. Basketball has never been my forte as far as the sport. I don't know enough people that drive that sport to make my basketball program the basketball program in the area. So if there's a couple things, yes, that is something that I'm continually working on, that I'm continually striving to meet people in that industry that could drive that part of our program and make that program better, particularly with the basketball. It's such a great sport that is embraced by so many people of all races and any cultural background, any socioeconomic background. Basketball is embraced by so many people, so many countries. I mean, every country in the world pretty much plays basketball, where you can't really say that with hockey. Hockey was always perceived as being a sport for people that were well-to-do, that had money where they could put their kid in, and it's always driven by ice, obviously, because that's the thing that they're thinking about. It's always been driven by people that are a little bit more well-off than other people. And it was kind of like oh, wow, their kids play ice hockey. Like that was a big deal. But basketball, like I said, is a sport that's embraced by everybody. And that's one thing that at this juncture I still need to get a better grip on. So it's something like, hey, it's another little project I can work on. keep me going for next 8 to 10 years.
There's always something, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, there has to be.
But that's what makes it fun. Like in my industry, that's what makes it fun. I mean, it's like any other business. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. The faces that come in and out of the building may remain the same, but sports as a whole are changing in a lot of different ways. Big thing right now is, what do we do as an indoor sports facility? What do we do? And I don't want to bring this conversation to a dull point or a blunt point, if you will. But what do we do as an industry to protect our athletes? What do we do to minimize injury? What do we do equipment-wise or facility-wise? How can we make it so nobody gets hurt? It's all over the news. I mean, the concussions and the youth sports, particularly like football. Hockey's a big one. Kids getting head injuries, kids getting neck injuries. And from that standpoint, there's a lot to learn. I mean, injury is not like it used to be back when I was a kid playing sports. It was like, what happened? Oh, I smashed my head. Rub some dirt on it, it'll be fine. That was it. Now it's like, you really have to be cognizant if you do have a player that suffers some sort of any injury, head injury, back injury, arm, neck, it doesn't matter what it is. So from that perspective, there's always stuff to move forward with.
Yeah, definitely. You already kind of touched on it, so why don't we just follow through with the question? What do your dreams for the future look like?
I have 2 children that both collectively and individually have expressed interest to me that they would like to continue on in the business. They want to wrestle the old man for control of the business and send me off to sea, if you will. And 52, going to be 53 years old. Not that it's work for me per se, air quotes, people, air quotes. It's not work for me, but I would like to one day, retire and not have to have the stress and the worry of running not only building we have a 46,000 square foot facility here, not only running a building, but running the business within the building. So my vision for the future would be to have one or both of my children take over the business from me, and I can kind of drift off, if you will, to the right, never really relinquishing total control, because that's just not it's not in my makeup. But I would love to have my kids take the baton and move forward with it. And at that point, I'm not going to just say, okay, well, I'm done and walk away. I mean, I would always be there, whether it was for managerial expertise, if they needed, hey, we're going on a family vacation. Can you work the week for me? I would step back in and, stay here for, a week, 2 weeks, whatever they needed. Or if they, once or twice a week, hey, listen, can you work a Wednesday night for me? Can you? Yeah, sure. I mean, I would love to do that. I would love to be able to take a step aside, let one or both of my kids, just like I said, take the ball and run with it. And if they needed to call me in from the sidelines from time to time to kind of help out, I would be more than glad to do that. And I can envision myself being able to enjoy the business even more at that point than I do now. Because then you're not in the trenches every day. You're not, as I like to say to my son and my daughter all the time, hey, listen, I'm the one taking the bullets here. I'm the one who, it stops here at my desk. And it would be nice to kind of step out of that, let those guys take the hits, if you will, because you're dealing with customers. You're dealing with people. You're dealing with a lot of people's children. People's children are the most important thing to that particular person. You got to be mindful of that. But, not to get off on another tangent, but, that would be a very nice transition for me. I never want to fully walk away. Never. And I think my kids know that. But I don't want to be the guy, I don't want to be looking over their shoulders either. I want to be able to, step aside, knowing that, both my children have a good grip on what's going on in the business, have an opportunity to drive the business forward, continue on for another generation, and maybe if they have children, maybe they want to do it, or, who knows. That's where not only my head, but also my wife. My wife kind of shares in that vision as well. We would love to be able to watch our children take something that we've basically cultivated from the ground up and say, now this is your baby. Passing this on to you. Don't screw it up.
I think it should be easy with how much vacation time you're dishing out there.
Yeah.
So, if you were stranded on a deserted island with your family, what 3 things would you want to have with you?
That's a good question, Joe. That's a really good question. On a deserted island, I guess I probably need a lifetime supply of sunblock. I'm figuring we're in a tropical island somewhere, so I don't want to get burned up. I enjoy the beach when I can get to it. It's nothing better than being on a deserted island, I guess, if you had, as much cold beer as you could possibly have, and some great reading material, and having something. I need to read something. So I would have to, if it was me, I'd like to have some frosty beverages, something to read, and some good tunes. And that's it. I would be happy. If I had music, reading material, something to drink, I would be totally happy. I mean, I guess some people like to have a satellite dish and a flat panel TV.
Nobody said that yet.
Really?
Yeah. But with the iPhone, it's music, your movies, your TV shows, your reading, everything. I mean, everything is.
Yeah, but where are you going to get a? Where are you going to get a? Where are you
Well,
going
it's all just.
Where are you going to get a signal?
It's all theoretical.
I know. Okay, so I want to have a signal. I want to have my iPad, and now I'm telling you, I would be more than happy if I knew that I could, enjoy a nice beverage, had some good tunes to listen to, and be able to read, whether it's paper form, an iPad, whatever. But those are probably the 3 things. And I have my family, of course. So
you already have, yes. That's why that's included in the question.
It's already given. So they're going to bring 3 things too. So
yeah. So
somebody's bringing a flat panel.
Yeah. You got something to do, right? Before we get into your last thoughts, I just wanted to go real quick into, for people who don't know what the difference between roller hockey and ice hockey is, could you give a few examples of the differences?
Mm-hmm. The basic premise of the sport is exactly the same. Stick, puck, put the puck in the net, put a goal on the scoreboard. But there are some nuances that are different. Obviously, equipment-wise, it's essentially the same other than what you're wearing on your feet. The boot is pretty much the same of your skate, whether it's ice or roller, but rather than skating on a skate blade, you're skating on a blade that has wheels on it. But the sport itself, ice hockey, is played with 5 skaters and a goalie on each team. Roller hockey is just 4 skaters and a goalie on each team. Ice hockey is predominantly a checking sport where, if you don't know what checking is, it's where you physically use your body up against another person's body and bump them, if you will, either off of the puck or into the boards, or you can physically check somebody. Where roller hockey at any level, whether it's kids or adults, whether it's in-house league or there is professional leagues that are being run for roller hockey, there is no checking in roller hockey at all. So you got 4-on-4, no check. There's no offsides, so basically the entire rink is wide open to do whatever you want to do. Where in ice hockey there is offsides, and there is no such thing as icing the puck, as they say in ice hockey. Ice hockey, you can't shoot the puck from your own goal all the way down the other end of the rink and just dump the puck down there. That's called icing. They blow the whistle, they pick up the puck, they bring it all the way back down to where you dumped it from, and they face it off and they start again. Where in roller hockey, you can just dump it, all day. So those are the big differences. It's a 4-on-4 game as opposed to 5-on-5. There's no checking in roller hockey. There's no offsides and there's no icing. Other than that, it's all the basic same concept.
Well, thank you for that. So do you have any last thoughts to share with the audience?
Well, the one thing I could say, for anybody, whatever, walk of life you come from, and I don't want to say this to sound cliche or corny or anything like that, but, if you find something that drives you, that you enjoy doing, that you want to do it. Do it. Whether it means you're going to be the poorest person in the world or the richest person in the world, or you're going to fall somewhere in between, the money is only a material thing. You got to do what makes you happy. To sound cliche, you can't buy happiness. You can have all the money in the world and be miserable. If you find something that you like to do, find something that you enjoy that really, really motivates and drives you, do it. And do it to the best of your ability, because what's going to happen, you're going to eventually reap the rewards of that. You will reap the rewards, I promise you. If you find something you like to do and you do it to the best of your ability, someone's going to take notice. Someone's going to call you on it, and someone's going to give you a reward for doing it that way. That's my last and final thought.
You want to share your website, Facebook, Twitter?
We are on Facebook, Choice Sports Arena. I do not have a Twitter account because I don't understand it. But we do have a Facebook account. We do have a website. Our website, you can get to our website a couple different ways. You can go to www.choicesportsarena.com. You can go to www.choiceinline.com. Either one of those will bring you right to our webpage.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been great. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Dreamers Podcast. Follow us on Twitter @Dreamers Podcast. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Dreamers Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the Dreamers Podcast, please send an email to j@jpar.co. This podcast is copyright 2014 by jpar.co.